Good day, everyone. Today we will travel back in time when John Smith and Pocahontas met for the first time. Captured by Opichan Cano, written in the Journal of John Smith. Her real name was Amonoti. Her family called her Matuaka. Pocahontas is just her second nickname. She was born on 1596. Pocahontas saved John Smith from execution in an attempt to make white settlers feel good about the Powhatan's culture and not because she loved John Smith. John Smith, he was 27 years old when he first met Pocahontas, who was 11 years old at that time. He was the leader of the colonists. One day, he was exploring the land that they colonized in December of 1607 when he was captured by Opichan Cano and other men of Chief Powhatan. Wahon Sikanaga. He was the chief of the Powhatans, the father of Pocahontas, and Opichan Cano's brother. Although Spain claimed all of North America under the 1494 Tordesillas Treaty, King James believed that England could colonize the outer part of Spain's New World Empire. The Virginia Company operated under King James on 10 of April 1606 with the intention of building territories on the North American coast, and visitors wished to improve themselves and England politically and economically. The Virginia Company of England made a brave proposal: sail to the new, mysterious land, which they called Virginia in honor of Elizabeth, the Virgin Queen. They established Jamestown, Virginia on May 14, 1607, the first permanent British settlement in North America. The Virginia Stock Company is the first company to support the colonization. The investors hoped to find gold and silver as well as other important treasures, and also glass, iron, coal, and everything the land could provide. Jamestown was the profit-seeking project funded by investors. The colonists were all young men, and they appeared to be completely unprepared for the difficulties ahead. The Englishmen traveled using 3 ships named Susan Constant, Godspeed, and Discovery. They sailed for 40 miles north. 144 Englishmen arrived at the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay. And from the start, the settlers battled repeatedly with a group of Algonquian Indians, North Americans, who were Powhatan alliance. The uninhabited land they had chosen was upriver and out of reach of the Spanish patrols. It provided simple protection against land attackers and located near to several Indian villages. It was not long until the colonists built a fort. The fort showed their awareness need to defend themselves from Indians and Spaniards. However, despite of their fears of the Spanish attack, the most serious threats the settlers were illness and starvation. The Jamestown's location was a mess. The Indians avoided that area for 2 reasons. First is terrible soil for agriculture, and second is blackish tidal water that led to a debilitating disease. The leader of the colonists was John Smith. John Smith was the son of a yeoman farmer in England. Before Jamestown, he made his way to the Netherlands and joined a rebel army there and engaged in fighting for independence from Spain. In Jamestown, Smith will take command as the crippled colony began to fall apart. The colonists hoped for easy riches but found none. As John Smith later complained, they would rather starve than work, and so they did. Disease and starvation ravaged the colonies, thanks in part to the land's unhealthy location and the fact that supplies from England arrived sporadically or spoiled. Fewer than half of the original colonists survived the first 9 months. As the colony was starving, John Smith proved himself skillful at securing food from the Virginia Indians. One day, he was exploring the land in December of 1607 when he was captured by Opichan Cano and other men of Chief Powhatan. Chief Wahonsinakaga, or Chief Powhatan as the English called him, was the leader of the powerful Powhatan Confederacy. The chief wanted information, so he sends his daughter Pocahontas, around 11 years old, to talk to Smith. One of the greatest stories that has captivated our historical imagination is a story that while in captivity, Chief Powhatan tried to execute John Smith, and Pocahontas saved him by throwing herself on the top of John to stop the execution. However, there is no proof that Pocahontas did that. The other historians are saying that the reason why Pocahontas saved John Smith from execution is because she wants the white settlers feel good about the Powhatan's culture and not because she loved John Smith. What we do know for sure is that the Powhatan kept John Smith alive the first winter. The Powhatan people rescued the weakened and demoralized English colonists by offering them corn. The Powhatan had welcomed the English and placed a high value on metal axe heads, kettles, tools, and guns, and eagerly traded furs and other abundant goods for them. With 10,000 confederated natives and with food in abundance, the Indians had little to fear and much to gain from the isolated outpost of sick and dying Englishmen. After that winter, half of the original colonists was dead by the following spring. Only the one-fourth of the Englishmen were still alive. The strong leadership of Smith helped the colonists survive, but he also made him enemies within the court. As he slept in the boat in the river one night, Smith was badly injured by a mysterious gunpowder explosion. He returned to England for treatment in October 1609 and never set foot on Virginia again. As time went on, things continued to get worse for the colonists. Another 400 settlers arrived there again. But the overwhelmed colony entered a desperate starving time in the winter of 1609 to 1610. Relations with the Indians deteriorated as more colonists began to take food from them by force. That is when the First Anglo-Powhatan War started and lasted around 4 years. The war was a series of skirmishes between the colonists and the Powhatans. As the relationship between the Powhatans deteriorated, disaster loomed the colony. Without supplies, the settlers ate everything they could, roaming the woods for nuts and berries all day. They boiled leaves and even ate excrements of the animals. Archaeological evidence shows that they butchered their dogs and cats. One man was executed for killing and eating his wife. He powdered her and had eaten part of her before it was loomed, for which he was executed as he well deserved. Few people again arrived at Jamestown in 1610. They viciously attacked the Powhatans together with the few settlers that have survived. Using terror tactics borrowed from Queen Elizabeth's conquest of Ireland, English soldiers burned villages and towns and executed women and children. After 2 years, Captain Samuel Argall, the leader of the colonists, captured Powhatan's daughter Pocahontas in the spring of 1613 and became his prisoner. While in captivity, Pocahontas was indoctrinated into the Anglican Church and baptized. Later on, Pocahontas fell in love and married John Rolfe. Because of that, English colonists formed an alliance with Powhatans. Upon her marriage to John Rolfe, Pocahontas chose to take an English name, Rebecca. That means mother of two people. and they married in the large church inside James Fort on April 5, 1614. After the marriage of Pocahontas and Rolfe, the tensions between the settlers and the Powhatans lessened. Pocahontas and John Rolfe eventually had a son named Thomas. Thomas was born in Virginia on 1615. A year late in 1616, the colony was desperate need of more money from investors, so they sent Pocahontas and John Rolfe with the infant son to England to promote the colony. Pocahontas was referred as Rebecca and celebrated with highest London society. Pocahontas and John Rolfe returned in Virginia on 1617, but Pocahontas took ill at the subsided and died in England at the age of 22 years. After Pocahontas' death, her father Powhatans died shortly after in 1618. Upon Powhatan's death, his brother Opechancanough was made supreme chief. Initially, the natives bought their time. But in 1622, Opechancanough launched an all-out assault on English settlers. Opechancanough led a series of coordinated surprise attacks that concentrated on settlements upriver from Jamestown and succeeded in killing nearly a third of the English population. What followed then was a 10-year war in which the English repeatedly attacked the Indian food supply. He finally arrived in 1632, but by then the balance of power in Virginia had tipped toward English. The colonial population had grown. Opechancanough power decreases. The Powhatans tried to stop English encroachment one last time in 1644, but Opechancanough was already old. The final assault that began in 1644 ended in 1646. With the capture of Opechancanough, English guards shot Opechancanough dead on the back.